We now offer a product called Promoted Trends that offers companies the ability to promote something that people are starting to buzz about but is not one of the top 10 trends. So that's a great vehicle for entertainment studios on Tuesday or Wednesday to start to get to people to enhance the conversation, boost the conversation they're having around those movies.
Got it. So what about kind of the vision for Twitter vis-a-vis Facebook?
Sure.
Looking beyond the I know you're the money guy here, but...
So on the product side, I think the basic difference is where things started. Facebook is, of course, a social network. So I'm a friend of yours, you're a friend of mine. In Twitter, we've got this asymmetric graph. What I mean by that is, I follow Ad Age, but Ad Age doesn't follow me. Right?
We need to fix that.
I'm not, am I a friend of Ad Age? No. Do I get value from our relationship? Yes. Right? So the whole platform is built that way. It's just a different way of thinking about everything. And then I think, additionally, Twitter is a sort of a known broadcast environment, right? I know when I'm publishing something that it's immediately searchable, discoverable, et cetera, by anyone who uses Twitter.
Can you tell us a little bit about people's behavior on Twitter?
That's loaded. That's about as loaded a question as you can throw.
Do real people actually search on Twitter, or are they more interested in kind of like their own timelines, or?
Yeah, great question. So the right answer to that is that people use Twitter in all sorts of different ways. I think if you asked people generally about how they use search, like web search, you would get kind of similar answers generally from the public. Twitter is interesting in that some people use Twitter search religiously. I happen to be one of those people, and you'll talk to other people and they'll say, oh yeah, I use Twitter search all the time. While other large segments of Twitter users never use search at all. Some folks, so for example, a large segment of our user base follows a lot of accounts but never tweets. Right? So they view it completely as a consumption environment, and in fact we think of the platform ourselves as a consumption environment. Other people follow a few people and tweet, every 4 seconds. We've all followed somebody like that, right? So it's definitely a platform that's got lots of different user types.
When people search on Twitter, do you find that there's intent behind those searches?
Absolutely.
I think that's what Google always says.
Sure.
About, this is an intent-driven channel.
Sure. So that's a perfect segue, or as my 8-year-old son pronounces the word "segui," to talking about promoted tweets. So the idea behind promoted tweets was I've got a group of people who follow my account, and when I tweet, the people who follow my account can see what I have to say. The idea behind promoted tweets was to say, okay, let's allow companies to enhance those communications that they're already having with their organic followers. So I can create a tweet, I'm Starbucks, I'm Nike, I'm Coke, I'm Pepsi. I can create a tweet, my followers get it organically, and then I can promote that tweet so that it appears in Twitter search at the top of the results and stays pegged to the top of the results for anyone searching for the terms with which I associate that tweet. And what we're seeing for promoted tweets, and this has been in the press, it was in Michael Lehrman's Ad Age piece the other day, we're seeing tremendous engagement rates with those promoted tweets. 5% engagement rates on average. And when I use the term engagement rate, it's essentially something like a click-through rate. It's clicks plus replies plus retweets, right, as a percentage of impressions. And like I said, again, on average, 5% engagement rates with promoted tweets. So that kind of tells you it's absolutely an intentions-based search, and they're seeing this first result, which is an ad. It's a promoted tweet, and they're engaging with it at high levels.
Is this, where are you at with kind of promoted tweets? Have you moved beyond experimentation? Where would you consider your place right now?
I have to interrupt myself and say, in these Q&As, I always kind of shift between talking to you and then talking to the audience. So I'll try to do both effectively. What I'll try to do is look right here. We're definitely beyond the experimentation stage. I think the stage we're at could be, I would summarize as, it's working. We feel like we've cracked the code on a new kind of advertising that starts out as organic content and then can be promoted to enhance its distribution. And now that we know it's working and have proven it's working across a number of industry verticals, we're going to start to really expand that. And we're going to expand it in a couple ways. We're going to expand the number of advertisers we're working with on promoted tweets and promoted trends. And then we're going to expand the product suite. We'll keep experimenting in different kinds of areas. So I would say we've probably worked with 40 plus advertisers to date. And toward the end of the year, we'll be in the low hundreds, and then we'll expand from there until we feel like we've got a robust enough infrastructure to provide a self-serve platform for people to do all sorts of things like local targeting, et cetera.
So you mentioned promoted tweets, promoted trends. We've been hearing a little bit about this concept of promoted accounts.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
I can tell you a few things about that.
Okay.
So let's see. This summer, we launched this feature called Suggestions for You. And the idea behind Suggestions for You was we all log into our Twitter accounts, we see what the people we're following have to say. Every once in a while, maybe some of them retweet somebody, and we say, oh, who's that person? And we kind of hop around, or we might go look at some of our friends' follower accounts, and who are they following? We find other people that way. The idea behind Suggestions for You was to algorithmically start to show people, hey, based on the accounts you follow, and based on the accounts those people follow, here are some other accounts you might be interested in. And we have just done that sort of organically. And that's been a tremendous success. So it has increased the ratio, the average number of followers per account. The anecdotal reaction to it has been extremely positive, et cetera, et cetera. So what we will start to experiment with here very shortly is the notion of promoted accounts. And in all of our advertising products, what we're trying to do is not say, here's the content, here's the ads. What we're trying to say, this is organic content that people like. How can we take this thing that's organic and enhance a company's ability to communicate with their customers with it? So the notion of promoted accounts will be to take that same algorithm that here are things that are like this, and instead of saying, when I log in, here are accounts that you might like to follow, it will look at that same algorithm from the marketer's point of view and say, here are accounts like your account, marketer, and then show that promoted account to those people. Right? So it's the same algorithm, sort of mirrored, and we'll see how that works. We're going to
So it's about building an audience for something.
It's about building an audience. Yes,
okay.
That's exactly right.
So brands are trying out the promoted tweets, the promoted trends. Certainly. Can you see a day when they might spend millions on Twitter like they spend on Google?
Absolutely. I mean, that day is right around the corner.
Right around the corner, like a month around the corner?
In the very, very near term. I mean, it's going to be very easy for us to have a significant enough distribution for you to spend as much money as you want to spend with us.
Do you think that you will get to meaningful monetization before, say, a Facebook did, or a Google did?
I think of these things, I think they're kind of they go at the same pace once you start, well, back up. If you're successful, these things kind of grow at the same pace once you get started. So if you look at the revenue growth of a Facebook, once it decided to start, this is where we're going to go, or the revenue growth of a Google once it got going, or a YouTube, or you can pick whichever sort of companies that are in these kinds of businesses you want to pick. Once they get going, they kind of grow for the first few years at this 3x revenue, 3x or 4x revenue pace for the first few years, and then kind of go down to a 2x revenue growth for the next couple of years. So if we're successful, that's the kind of pace we should see ourselves at.
Okay. Who's going to buy Twitter?
Westinghouse.
Westinghouse.
No. The answer to that question is we have every intention of remaining an independent company. We're not interested in selling the company. Ev and Biz have always spoken very clearly and bluntly about the fact that we are trying to build a very long-living company, and we think about the future of the company in that way. So that informs all of our decisions. For example, if you were thinking about, hey, we want what's our exit strategy, right? That's a question entrepreneurs will sometimes ask other entrepreneurs. What's your exit strategy? Which I always think is sort of a silly question.
So pretend we're just a couple entrepreneurs
sitting here, and you've asked me what's our exit strategy. If you really wanted to optimize for that, you would optimize to you would try to maximize near-term revenues. We have absolutely no interest, and people joked when I said earlier, like it's right around the corner when we can accept millions of dollars from advertisers. We could accept millions of dollars from advertisers right now and do something that is antithetical to the way we think about Twitter. And we would maximize our near-term revenues. We have absolutely no interest in doing that. We're being very cautious about the way we roll out our monetization products because we value the user experience first, and it is our absolute religious point of view that an engaged user base that stays engaged and gets more engaged will give more long-term value to the platform, and monetization will fall out of that organically.
Is there a long-tail business for Twitter? I know you have big brands have started buying it today.
Yes.
A Ray's Pizza, or in my neighborhood, it's called Not Ray's. But what would be?
It's actually called Not Ray's Pizza.
It's actually called Not Ray's. Yeah.
You live in one of those hipster neighborhoods in Brooklyn. So the short answer to that is yes. So now I'll describe how we get there.
Okay.
When Google got started and Sheryl Sandberg was building the monetization business at Google, they started with these sort of trunk advertisers and long tail advertisers, because if you went to Ford or Starbucks when they were first selling AdWords, big brands just weren't interested in that. Why would I buy search that doesn't make any sense? So they started with the trunk and the long tail and then moved into the head. When we got started here recently, these big brands were already using Twitter, right? And so it was very easy for us to go to them and have conversations with them about, here are some ways in which we think you can enhance the conversations you're already having with your customers. Here's one example with promoted tweets. Here's another example with promoted trends. But that doesn't mean that the platform is not also going to be incredibly valuable to these trunk and long tail companies who also already use Twitter. So our thought process was, let's start with these large brands who have a big presence on Twitter. We'll use that experience that we gained from them, with them, working with them, and almost 80% of them have renewed with us, have come back and continued to buy with us. Okay? I think that's a tremendous number for brand advertising this early in the game. We'll use that experience we gain with our partners, and we'll build out the infrastructure based on that experience for the long tail, these strong publishers. And we think of them as publishers, right? And we will provide a platform for them next year with which to do self-serve local advertising.
So self-serve coming 2011?
Yes.
Okay. Advertising on Twitter is somewhat still, labor intensive for some of these brands, getting help from you guys, what should we write in our tweets, that sort of thing, the promoted tweets. Do you think marketers are getting better at this?
They're absolutely getting better at it. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's actually one of the things we measure as we grow the number of marketers we're working with, and it's one of the reasons we think we're really ready to really open this up. When we first started, we trialed with 5 or 6 companies. We measured, hey, what's the time we have to spend with them before they created an effective campaign? And what are the things we can do to start to narrow that, shorten that amount of time we spend with them before they create an effective campaign? And so we learned things like on the very first test that one of the companies cut and paste their AdWords ad into their tweet, sent out the tweet, and then promoted it. Well, so bad idea, right? You've created this very authentic communication with your audience through this account that you've got, and then all of a sudden there's an AdWords ad tweet in there, and you not only have a promoted tweet then that doesn't work, I can talk more about what happens when promoted tweets don't work, but you've annoyed your organic followers. So, okay, here are things to do, here are things not to do. That time is now shortened significantly enough that we feel we can onboard a lot more advertisers.